Hello, my friends. I am Samar Kishore Mahato, headmaster of Manipur Swami Vivekananda High School under West Bengal Board of Secondary Education, and I am here today with this video lecture. Want to help you achieving your goal in NET, SET, SET, or any other TET examination with my studies and discussion regarding English language teaching or language learning and language pedagogy. These are very important, and in this area various types of questions are asked, and it is one of the most difficult portion where the students might suffer from because of their lack of understanding and lack of clarity in understanding and comprehension. And this is my earnest effort to give you a clear understanding about certain issues regarding English language, English language learning, English language teaching, language learning, and language pedagogy. If you like my video, don't forget to offer your comments so that it might be helpful for me to make my next videos better and more helpful to you. At first, I want to give you an understanding about the nature of language. What are the different characteristics of language, and what are the basic things that you need to understand about language, and these are the roots under which language pedagogy is constantly developing, and researches are going on all these subjects, keeping in mind about language. So the first, our concern is what is language. A language, there are certain characteristics of language. First of all is that a language is a system. So what type of system? Like computer or mobile. As a computer system has different various roots, and all these roots work in an organized and coherent integrative manner. Similarly, language is a system of symbols, system of written symbols or alphabets, and in these symbols are coded in certain manner that when these codifications are transferred, shifted to a second person or different person, then they decode it and find the meaning. But language, all these systems work together. So what are the basic components of language? As a system, the basic components of language is phonological system, is philological system, morphological system, syntactical system, and the systems of different kind of embellishments like rhetoric and prosody. So all these systems work together to find accuracy, to find clarity, and to find refinement and standardization of language, so of the system, that the language becomes not merely acceptable, but it becomes so sweet that the listeners and the decoder automatically become enraptured and get delight out of listening or reading or finding out the meaning of that system. So at first, one should keep in mind that language is a system, and in language all these systems work together in a coherent and integrative manner to find out a clear and accurate meaning so that the language becomes understandable for everyone each and every time when it is spoken or written. This is the first criteria. This is the first thing that a language should be understandable. So what is language? Language is a system. This is the first idea. And second idea, the language is for communication. The basic purpose of language is to communicate. Verbal communication. So there are two types of communication. One is non-verbal, that rests upon cues and various kinds of body language, various kinds of sign language. But language is something that is completely different. It is clear and it is understandable and it has accuracy. So every person, when that language he reads or listens, he understands the same meaning when the other persons or any person in the world listens would get the same meaning. So language, when communicated from coder to decoder, actually in all communications, two things are most important, that coder or person who speaks and a decoder who listens and understands. So language is for communication. As a social being, we need to communicate our mind, our feelings, or whatever ideas within us, and we have to just deliver or express them in words that would be clearly understandable whenever it is listened throughout the world by any person, whether he is present before us or not, doesn't matter. If he is not present before us, it will be written in such a manner that the same thing would be understandable by the listener. And a third point, that it is acquired. It is acquired. Language is not thought as a cognitive development. Actually, human development, as per recent researches that we have learnt from pedagogues like Piaget or Vygotsky or Kohlberg. So, an individual or total development has 7 areas in which a human being develops constantly. One of the major area is language. Along with cognitive development, biological development or moral development or aesthetic development, language development is the most essential root. If language does not develop, the person cannot express his cognitive understanding or any kind of feeling to any other person, whether it is a social communication or classroom communication or in communication with his friends, with his familial world. He or she need to develop a communicative process in which he is to use his acquisitive power. Acquisition and cognitive process are very different. Where lies this difference? Acquisitive process and cognitive process. Cognitive process uses brain, and language learning requires more interactive social interaction. Actually, language has 3 different views: functional views, interactive views, and structural views. A language has 3 different views in which a language works. A language, when works in these 3 different planes, Actually, they tell that it is a skill language. One learns through practice and drill. One need not be intellectually superior to become a language learner. A language develops along with his social interaction. A language develops in the mind of a person when he associates himself with the language, and it is practice that makes him perfect in the use of language. So brain or intellect plays the secondary role in language learning. A language is actually practice or a drill or an acquisition. It is not a matter of cognitive development. It is rather a social development. But this is one of the major development process in an individual without which no other development would ever take place. So language development is one of the most fundamental development that we must look forward to in our children. Language is dynamic. It is constantly ever changing. So there must be a flexibility in the language to accommodate and assimilate different parts of the world, different ideas of the different parts of the world in an integrative manner, so that it can become intelligible to the people throughout the world. Actually, dynamism, it is the dynamism and rigidity, but dynamism is opposite to rigid fixed subjects. So there is nothing fixed in the world of language. An individual and a language is also entirely an individual affair. An individual can use in his own unique manner. Though it is, as there are so many people in the world, and this multitude minds can use language in a multitude way. And this multitude way are uniquely individualized. Though it is dynamic, it is individualized. An individual can use in his own way, so that it becomes his own style. And it is the use of language that makes the person's style unique. The creativity and productivity in language is a natural process of development. Natural process means that it starts with listening. Secondly, it becomes the person becomes skillful in speaking. After listening, the person becomes skillful in speaking, and then reading and writing. So these are the natural process. The 4LSRW. This is the natural way of learning. All languages follow this a certain rule. They follow these rules of learning. Even the mother tongue or the tongue, second language, or the target language learning, all language learning takes place in this natural way, productive and receptive manner, that ultimately it becomes creative and fruitful. The person who wants to deliver his mind, deliver his idea, all these ideas and mind might become understandable, might become clearly, accurately accepted by the listener when the language is told. So, in order to understand the basic nature of language, we need to keep in mind these four elements. What are these four elements? Let us regroup and re-summarize reassess in a summarized manner what I have told you today. That language is basically a system, and its nature is more verbal. It is communicative. The purpose of language is communication, and it is learned through acquisition, practice, and drill. And it is a constantly ever-changing, dynamic subject. And finally, it has certain individual uniqueness. So these are the 7 characteristics that today I elaborate in order to give you an idea how language, the nature of language works in a language. So English is not an exception, and in the next video I am going to tell you about the nature of English language. So today the session is over, and in this session I hope that you got my ideas quite clearly. Don't forget to offer your valuable comments in the inbox.